r/out-of-the-loop. Furyk says, what's going on with California's state budget? Last year I remember seeing a lot of articles/headlines about a $100 billion surplus, and now it has swung completely the opposite direction, and now they are saying there is a budget deficit of $30 billion. Did something happen that caused this $130 billion swing in their budget? Left square bracket. Sinova von Druk says, answer, the economic reality of our largest industries has changed significantly due to aggressive efforts by the Fed to slow down the economy after low interest rates and government stimulus supercharged the tech sector, among others, in the last few years. Much of the state is also seeing a lot less Main Street economic activity in general due to remote workers and household belt tightening due to inflation. Much of this was foreseeable, which is why many people in the state government pushed to save much of that enormous surplus for the inevitable fallout. Stoiexcellence says, the correct answer. Ultimately, the state's system of tax revenue is wildly unstable, and has been so since the 1970s. Why? Well, the three biggest ways states can generate revenue is through property tax, sales tax, and income tax. There are other things like fees and specific taxes on products and services, but those are usually minor and usually fund specific things. Tax on Cal Lotto to fund schools is an example. In any case, each tax is different with variations of year-on-year stability and social strain on the state's population. Small states can effectively have one or two of the three and be solvent. Big states like CA, TX, and New York needs to have a little of all three or lean heavier on property tax as it's the most stable revenue stream. Well, in the 1970s with the introduction of Prop 13, CA has effectively crippled its ability to generate revenue from property tax. As a result, it has to rely on income and sales tax, which wildly fluctuate depending on the overall health of the national economy. Furyk says, this is about the 2022 to 2023 budget that was originally estimated at $100 billion surplus, then adjusted down to a deficit of $30 billion. So there was no money to save to begin with. How could they be so far off on their estimate? r/out-of-the-loop. Minute_study_5178 says, what's the deal with recap videos? So I'm seeing a lot of these recap videos of movies done in a robotic voiceover with some weird header of each one. Why do these exist? The procrastinator says, answer, welcome to the wonderful world of AI content creation. We'll be spending the rest of our lives here. IHTPQ says, answer, I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but because people watch them. They're easy to make and put ads on. I fell into a loop of watching a bunch on YouTube for movies I'd never even heard of because it was just easy to do, like eating potato chips. r/out-of-the-loop. Invalid_uses_ says, what's the deal with the Sondyhub Exploding Charger Girl video? I'm tired of looking and suspect it's a hoax. I keep seeing references to some sort of viral video that's impossible to find or get context on. Example, it's been coming across my TikTok feed as reaction videos or an otherwise vague video, but the video is never shown example, so I give up. Is this just a thing that doesn't actually exist? Rixie114500 says, answer, it's probably just a porn video with a fake caption. TikTok is nothing new to this. Side note, if you search for it, you'll find a lot of malware links and stuff. Don't click on fishy links. r/out-of-the-loop. Spacerain Game says, what's going on with Disney doing so many mass layoffs? Why did they just recently decide to take such drastic cost-cutting measures? Apparently the next round of layoffs is starting at Disney. Why are they doing this now though? They've gone so far as to announce Toy Story 5 for crying out loud, and I just said they'll be leaning in more heavily into Marvel and Star Wars. Clearly something must have happened to instigate this. Something in Japirit says. Answer: the entire global economy is crashing. Lots of major corporations have begun layoffs. It's not Disney specific, money just ain't free anymore. Tormund_beard says. Our economy is all tied up in earnings, so companies can't just take a smaller amount of profit and treat employees well. They've got to fire people, so their shareholders stay happy and can pretend perpetual growth isn't a fantasy. This in turn screws the economy further, leading to more layoffs. It's a bad system. r/out-of-the-loop. Manatee Wallpaper says. What's the deal with baseball umps being in the spotlight so much lately? It seems like there are fewer ejections from arguments on ball/strikes or safe/out, and way more on sticky substances, the pitch clock, or umpires just being unreasonable and swinging their egos around like I haven't seen before. Are fans sick of this seemingly daily drama and all the attention on the umps, or are they enjoying it? Upvoter 222 says. Answer: the main explanation for these changes you've observed is that there have been lots of MLB rule changes. The pitch clock was just introduced to the majors this season, meaning that any controversies related to the pitch clock constitute an increase from last year. And since the pitch clock is new, some players haven't fully adjusted to the change, an issue which will presumably decrease over time. Regarding foreign substances on pitchers' hands, that's been an issue since the spitball was outlawed over 100 years ago. However, the topic became a big deal again in 2021 when players started talking about spider tack, a sticky substance, and statistical data about pitches, namely spin rate, became advanced enough to suggest that sticky substances were likely commonplace. This prompted the league to start having umpires routinely check pitches for sticky substances between innings. Prior to this rule change, umpires very rarely checked for foreign substances. This week, sticky substances became a big deal because two different pitchers had some unusual interactions with the umpires related to rosin, a legal sticky substance, on their hands. On April 15th, arguments broke out after Yankees pitcher Domingo German was told to wash rosin off of his hands, then being allowed to stay in the game after not removing the substance completely. Yesterday, Mets pitcher Maximum Scherzer was in a similar situation, where he was instructed to wash his hands because they felt sticky. He ended up getting ejected for failing to clean his hands adequately. Because similar events happened over such a short time period, it's gotten some extra attention. Fans are usually unhappy with basically anything involving. Far_blueberry_2375 says. Answer: umps are in the spotlight because they are tasked with enforcing all the new rules. That's it. The eye of Sauron is upon them because they are the ones in charge of any game. r/out-of-the-loop. Hawks04 says. What's going on with all the looting of retail stores like Walmart and Target? I keep seeing these videos in my TikTok and Instagram feed where flash mobs of people are emptying out Walmarts and Targets. I read somewhere that some of these might be old videos, Chicago, maybe? But I keep getting the impression there's some trend or ongoing problem with this. Carl Hungus just says. Answer: a lot of YouTube channels have been pushing this narrative for a while now. They try to make it look like cities are collapsing with shortages and looting and riots. In reality, all you have to do is go outside and you can see for yourself that it's complete nonsense. I don't know how people make money off of TikTok, but on YouTube these videos are purely click/rage bait for profits. r/out-of-the-loop. Wastday says. What's up with he was born on the 10th of April posts? Why is nobody talking about this? Just within the past minutes I was followed by two very similar NSFW bot accounts, and they both only had one post with the caption he was born on the 10th of April between 19 something and something. Just search 10th of April on Reddit and you'll get a ton of results like that. What's going on? Why the extremely cryptic posts? Nobody seems to have pointed it out. Some of the text in those posts are also slightly unnerving and almost threatening. Is this a case of hacking or something? Perhaps a single person controlling a ton of different bots? Genuinely can't think of a good answer. Screenshot for context. A Nego Jabroni says. Answer, it is likely another creepypasta ARG related thing. A spooky group meme, so to speak. Saustius says. Answer, it's from Homestuck. John Egbert's birthday was April 10th, 19, in the beta, but was changed to April 13th for the actual release. Wrathbabe says. Answer, 410 favors the bold. R/out of the loop. Lassie28 says. Who is this, and why are people talking about penis inspection being real? Nsgrim says. Answer, the woman in the picture is Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican congresswoman in the US House of Representatives, and also a far-right conspiracy theorist. One of the big topics that her and other Republicans in the US often talk about is trans people. Specifically trans people playing sports and using bathrooms as their chosen gender. This has led to several US states with Republican state governments proposing or passing laws that prohibit that, especially in schools. A common criticism of laws like that is that they either explicitly include genital inspections or implicitly require them for enforcement. Thus penis inspection. Melissa Eminent says. To be a little more precise, the laws include forced genital inspection of children. Your Father Unfiltered says. Answer, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is a congressperson who thinks people should have their genitals inspected in order to qualify for team sports. Her and people like her are convinced there are boys/men out there changing their sex just to compete in women's sports. And they believe it's such a massive problem that laws need to be made to deal with it. In short, she and they are crazy and believe insane stupid bullshit, or are just liars saying what they think will get them elected. R/out of the loop. Enough_comparison_27 says. What's the deal with people wearing Airpods in their cars? I don't understand why people are alone in their cars with Airpods in when they have a perfectly fine radio/Bluetooth that could sound much better and get the full effects of the music. It also seems dangerous not being able to hear while driving. My only explanation is that maybe they forget to take them out? I'm not sure. Majora9109 says. Answer, it's simply not illegal in most areas, and it can be a matter of convenience. For example, I drive a 2011 with no Bluetooth capability and I don't really want a cord running near my shifter. So one headphone while I'm driving is reasonably safe in case I get a phone call. At least it's safer than having to reach for my phone and distract myself. Purdue says. Answer, I use them for phone calls. I'm half deaf and the sound is far better than trying to project over my entire car. Even when I was full hearing I still used headphones for calls. Last Dark Knight says. Answer, my speakers are messed up and car Bluetooth sucks, so I use my earbuds. Ninja4 says. Answer, as someone who does this daily I've found it a superior experience on multiple levels. For older vehicles with bad speakers and no Bluetooth connection, better hands-free calling and control than if I was trying to use a built-in system. Transparency mode means I often forget I even have one in. If driving with family or others I can still listen to my own podcast or navigation without having to complete for the vehicle's built-in systems. If I want to enjoy great tunes on a warm day I can have my windows down and not feel self-conscious about others around me also having to listen to what I've chosen to play. R/out of the loop. Left Field Echo says. What's going on with the top post in r/pics? I'm so unbelievably confused. Here's a link to the post in question. From viewing the post, it seems to be a man standing facing away from the camera as he looks at the Great Pyramids in Egypt. The title is finally made it, implying that he had been wanting to see the pyramids for some time, and this photo was taken in commemoration of him finally doing it. A very normal, and not really noteworthy post, right? Then why in God's name does it have countless awards, is the top post on r/pics, and the comments are just full of people roasting up for either looking like he's facing two ways at once, or having skinny legs I guess. I suppose his legs are somewhat skinny compared to his muscular upper half, but neither of these two things jumped out at me at all upon seeing the photo. To me, he is clearly just facing away from the camera and looking at some pyramids. His legs do not seem out of the ordinary, and even if they were, why in God's name are 4K people making fun of him for it when the post had nothing to do with his legs? Please help me make sense of this. What is even happening? Trollagag says. Answer. 1. His ape index looks unusually low, so his proportions look odd. 2. His arms are bigger around than his legs, backwards from most people. 3. His is standing in a weird hands forward wooden bro pose, kinda like Trump does, but leaning back 4. The picture itself is kinda odd. Like it's just another picture of the pyramids that literally every one of hundreds of thousands to millions of visitors take every year. If you look at the type of stuff typically posted to r/pics, most people don't just share random generic pictures of themselves on a vacation. It is supposed to be interesting, or for big karma, some political statement. Those 4 things on their own would be odd, but together, I think some redditors think all of this was intentional, a form of self-mockery, that the goofy proportion/pose was the picture with the pyramids just being an ironic backdrop. And that's why you see so many redditors roasting him for the goofy look/post. r/OutOfTheLoop. Seged_or_bust says. What's up with police being exempt from the assault weapon bans several states have recently enacted? I saw that Washington recently became the latest state to enact such a ban today. And in comments regarding it, people were pointing out that the police were entirely exempt from the new restrictions and have been so in virtually every other state enacting them. With recent scandals fostering distrust and so many politicians calling for police reform, why aren't they affected? This was the story about Washington, which prompted me to ask this. Anfisser_apologist says. Answer, because the police can, theoretically, be trained to use them correctly, and in opposition to someone using them illegally to kill people. In addition, there never actually was a political movement to reform the police. Although citizens called for reform, most mainstream politicians never actually did. The police remain as powerful a political force as they always were. Amiwimishindaru says. Answer, guns for me, not for thee. Arianity says. Answer, with recent scandals fostering distrust, while distrust is higher, overall trust in police is still really high. Politicians don't want to be seen as not letting cops do their job effectively, which is how that restriction will get portrayed. Vorpalus says. Answer, most gun control laws aren't written by politicians, but rather by lobbying groups who are almost entirely funded by a few billionaires, notably Michael Bloomberg and Connie Bulmer. The fundamental purpose of police isn't to protect and serve the people, or even to enforce laws, per se, but rather, through selective enforcement of laws, to maintain the current socio-economic hegemony, one, atop which sit those very same billionaires. Police are accepted from these laws, so that they maintain their privilege as a separate class, able to act in ways conducive to maintaining their hegemony. 1. For evidence of this, consider the disparity in policing, not just between races, but between classes. So-called blue-collar crimes have much higher arrest rates than white-collar crimes, and sentences are generally much harsher for a poor person than for a wealthy or connected person who have committed the same crime. Further, there is considerable and widespread support within the police for authoritarian groups, and police are much more likely to respond violently to protests about left issues than protests about right issues. See the immediate response to January 6th versus to the George Floyd protests. R/out of the loop. ThoughtFix says, what's the deal with so many stolen credit cards being used at Home Depot? I saw a $1,000 charge appear on a credit card from a Home Depot 400 miles away and submitted a dispute, then decided to see if it's a common thing. It is. One $4,800 fraud at one Home Depot last month. Pierce County thieves bought so much with stolen credit card it wouldn't fit in pickup. Deputies say over $6,000 in February. Multiple instances of stolen credit cards used to buy gift cards in Home Depot in Maryland in February. Trio wanted for using credit cards at Home Depot obtained from burglaries last month. There are many more. Then there are the whale stories from earlier. San Diego man spent over $300,000 spent at Home Depot stores from stolen credit cards in 2021. This is not related to the massive Home Depot data breach investigation in 2014. But a lot of Google results will show that story too. Is there something specific about Home Depot that attracts fraud? Like a cash return policy or gift card activation or something? Is it just confirmation bias because I was a victim and went searching for it? Gene Diarc says, answer, it literally happens at every big store and not any more at Home Depot than any other one. Van Emoji says, answer, easy to wrestle. R/out of the loop. Our third NXXI says, what's going on with the 1,000 teenagers that were recently rioting in Chicago? A couple people were shot, lots of damage to downtown. Let me first clarify that I'm a devout Democrat, but my mom is in the MAGA cult. I love Chicago, but my mom keeps acting like it's just woke people deciding arbitrarily to destroy things in downtown. Possibly because they don't want the new mayor? It doesn't make sense to me. I can't find the real cause of this. I know a new mayor is coming in, but I can't trust my mom's opinion, and most articles/footage I can find of the event are from Fox News and New York Post. I don't see how that many people get together to protest without a cause. It feels like the story is being skewed, but I don't know what this is about. Underfunding schools. Removing books. Weapons? Gemini_dream_ says, answer, as best as anyone can tell, it's not political. The mob was not a group of protesters, they weren't showing up for a demonstration. It was a large group of teens who wanted to frick shit up and realized that if they get a large enough group together, it's really hard for police to respond to it. There isn't really a practical way for cops to deal with a mob if it gets large enough, and the optics of physically attacking teenagers en masse, even with non-lethal crowd suppression tactics, would look really bad for a CPD that already has a bad reputation. R/out of the loop. Heman Heboy says, what's the deal with Jaiden Animation being cancelled? I was scrolling through YouTube until I saw a video titled Jaiden Animation's Drama. I was of course confused by this, since Jaiden Animation seems like a nice and friendly type of person who would always avoid being involved with anything that would stir drama or controversy. Anyways, I searched her name up on YouTube to make sure that the video I saw wasn't another one of those clickbait type of videos made to gain views, and I eventually kept seeing several videos which were posted like a day or few hours ago claiming that Jaiden Animation is being cancelled and that a handful of people are mad at her. So may someone please explain in a unbiased way on why she's being cancelled, or why does she have several people that are mad at her? Bananaphobe says, answer, based on the video you linked to, she was doing a video with another YouTuber, and they were joking about how Christians have been expecting the rapture to come any day now for like 2000 years. The criticism seems to be coming from self-identified Christians who are claiming to be offended that she can get away with joking about Christians and presumably not other religions. She has been criticized in the past by people who were angry that she made a video explaining that she identified as asexual, and based on the fact that she's being singled out for participating in this comedy bit, and that people seem more offended on principle than about any specific criticism of her comments, it's possible this is just more manufactured outrage by trolls who are angry that a pretty Asian woman doesn't want to have sex with them, even in an abstract theoretical sense. Janemaru says, answer, she's not cancelled. It's an angry minority of Christians blowing things out of proportion because of an obscure comment she made about Jesus. Hivul says, answer, YouTubers are people. Drama is caused by and happens to people. No YouTuber is without drama. None. Nearly all opinions and even a significant amount of facts will cause drama. Just because drama exists doesn't mean it's important. Especially true when, like you point out yourself, the person in question is usually perceived as being fairly chill and drama free. You can tell it's somebody else bloating up a story either for clout or content, because drama generates revenue. It's interesting that the video you linked actually contains the answer you're looking for, and that it's likely a few people in this thread have clicked it only because of this question, and wouldn't have seen it otherwise. Maybe you wanted us to summarize the video for you, but maybe you r/OutOfTheLoop. Crew G says, what is up with all the dumb laws, political tension that has happened in the US in the past week or two? I have a hard time keeping up with all of it. It actually blows my mind how much shit could be going on at once. Can you please do a TL, doctor? Some abortion bill? Expelling Tennessee Gov members? Banning TikTok? Some judge exposed for corruption? Trans list and what else? Something about Dianne Feinstein? What else? Please in a non-biased/biased way. I don't care. Angry_cucumber says, answer, like many of the times people ask about something, frick it up. The answer is once again the same. Frick, I'm conservatives and those who support them. Florida passed a ban on abortions after 6 weeks, when most women don't know they are pregnant before that time. A judge in Texas tried banning a popular drug used in abortion as well as treating miscarriages. Most people think this is out of his scope, and there's all kinds of shit going on there. The people suing didn't have standing. The drug was approved 30 years ago and not up for challenges, but the FDA allowed it to be mailed, so the court claimed it was within the challenge window, but the SCOTUS stayed his decision recently. Tennessee, 3 lawmakers joined students in protesting the lack of action on guns. They expelled the 2 young black lawmakers and left the older white woman. I think both expelled reps were immediately sent back by their districts. Turns out the speaker that expelled them has been having an affair for a while, and that came out while they were investigating his expulsion of the 2 Democratic reps. Scottish Associate Judge Clarence Thomas has apparently been getting gifts from Nazi fan Harlan Crow, who's been giving him luxury vacations, bought his mother's home where she's been living rent-free, and generally doing a lot shit that should be illegal. Thomas hasn't reported any of this information in his financial disclosures, and Crow has had business before the court multiple times. Thomas is fantastically an asshole on this, having just said, oops my bad, I screwed up the paperwork, after rejecting a death penalty case because of screwed up paperwork. TikTok, there's questions about how much access to TikTok China has. Montana banned it in the state, the US government banned it from government systems. People think this is a wee bit hypocritical giving how much data US social media collects, but is ignored because it's US companies. Feinstein is sickened out and can't do her job on the judiciary. Democrats have tried working around, but the GOP is blocking it, so still conservatives really. r/OutOfTheLoop. 2manamasks_ says, what's the deal with criminalizing pregnant women? So, I just found out about the Rennie Jobs case. How does criminalizing pregnant people benefit anyone? And just how far back do these things go? Immakenisantotopia says. Answer: that is an 11-year-old article, although the tactics and the broad strokes of the story are relatively unchanged. The concept is that pro-life folks want to ensure people who get pregnant actually deliver the baby. Generally, that means they don't want pregnant women to have the choice to terminate their own pregnancy. However, the more extreme element of the pro-life movement don't want to allow for any mitigating circumstances, such as an injury or a miscarriage, on the belief that those women are just doing it to themselves to avoid having the baby. The effect of putting such extreme restrictions in place means that even when a woman who has a miscarriage through no fault of her own, she is treated criminally, as if she had induced her own miscarriage. It has gotten worse lately after the Dobbs decision, which removed the federal layer of protection for women's right to choose, and many states have been putting restrictive laws in place to save the babies, even though it's likely that they are simply increasing both infant mortality and maternal mortality by limiting the medical options available to pregnant women. Redisted_ says. Answer: can't speak to how far back it goes, but as to why it is purely ideological. If the primary purpose of a woman is to carry children, then by not bringing the child to term they have failed in their primary purpose and should thus be punished for it. Now you can disagree with child rearing being women's purpose. I certainly do, but that would be the root of the matter. Cold Venus Hole says. Answer: there are varying ideological positions on the purpose of crime, punishment, and justice. Particularly in the USA, a more conservative evangelical view of crime holds that the sin itself must be punished, regardless of anything else. This, coupled with the USA's generally more punitive justice system, in contrast to restorative justice systems favored elsewhere, means this sort of attitude is pervasive. How far back does it go? Take your pick. You could reference the legality of abortion itself in the past, or comparable issues like the war on drugs and anti-homeless laws. Punitive justice means criminalization is supposed to be a direct deterrent to whatever the crime is. If the actual effectiveness of that is in question, go back to position A, where a crime must be punished because it is a crime. From that moral standpoint, even if punishment could be proved to have no effect or make the problem worse, it would still be necessary and justified. r/OutOfTheLoop. Birdie_Stephan_Altera says. What's up with diesel being so cheap all of a sudden, in some cases cheaper than the cheapest unleaded? I noticed it when I was driving up I-35 last weekend. There were several stations where diesel was in the $3.20 to $3.40 range per gallon, which was sometimes 10 or 20 cents cheaper than 87 octane unleaded at the same station. And then today, driving up to Austin, one station close to me has diesel at $3.12/gallon. Cheaper than unleaded, and the cheapest I saw later that day was $3.06/gallon. Trying to find some info online about this, I couldn't find any news articles talking about any sudden drop in diesel prices. But it is so rare to see diesel selling for less than unleaded. Over the past couple of years, diesel has often been as much as $1 or more expensive per gallon compared to unleaded. And now, this unexpected inversion. What would cause diesel to be cheaper than unleaded? Is something going on I haven't heard about? For anyone doubting the low prices, here's a quick screenshot of current diesel prices in the area. Henry Hyde says. Answer: not really an answer, just want to point out, diesel used to always be cheaper. It is a byproduct of the gasoline making process. The vast majority of large work equipment and transport trucks run off of diesel. As a society, we want diesel to be cheaper because that, in theory, should lower transport costs. Broke Dancing says. Answer: California just passed a price gouging bill, so that may be having a nationwide effect. Pacer_3II says. Answer: I've driven a diesel pickup since 2015. I've seen prices fluctuate from lower than 87 to nearly double it. In theory it should be less due to lower taxation, lower production costs, and steadier demand. That doesn't appear to be the case. Truckers don't pay for their own fuel, the customer does, and savvy truckers/companies build that into their pricing structure. If the price of fuel goes up $0.20, the customer gets charged the difference. A few drivers will even pick the most expensive stop they have a card for, hoping to stick it to the owner that doesn't pay them as well as they want. All that combines to where diesel is far less price competitive, especially when there's nowhere near as many vendors for diesel. Prices in my community can vary over $0.50/gallon. On the same day depending on proximity to the interstate, the love's outside town, and on the interstate is usually the highest price for miles. Price gouging 101. r/OutOfTheLoop. DAC15 says, what's up with Mathew McConaughey running quasi-telepreacher / life coaching live streams on YouTube? Left square bracket. Scout says, answer: McConaughey wrote a book titled Green Lights, a memoir of his life sprinkled with down-home anecdotes and advice to see the world how he sees the world. Being a successful, handsome, wealthy man who seemingly has the world at his fingertips, people became intrigued by his advice. A lot of the fervor came from the fact that McConaughey exiled himself in the desert without electricity for 52 days, which sounds pretty mythological or important in some sense. The book was a major bestseller, but many reviewers found the advice in the book cringy and not applicable to everyday people. Still, it found a massive audience. That's when Tony Robbins, author, coach, philanthropist, infomercialist, guru, actor, and seminar speaker approached McConaughey with the idea of commercializing his approach to self-help. It's selling a program for self-help, which is an industry worth over $10 billion a year. So, it's a sales pitch for a program for self-improvement, the McConaughey way. Many people will find his advice useful, but many may not. Alt Escapes says, I feel like, be successful, be handsome, be wealthy has more of an effect than the desert thing. Armbar Chris says, answer: like many eccentric rich people, McCann has suffered that particular celebrity brain rot that causes him to fail to understand how much of his success is due to luck and privilege. As such, he mistakes dumb celeb nonsense for things that real people can actually do and expect to improve their lives. And as usual, journalists and book reviewers take everything he says at face value. r/OutOfTheLoop. Author Sir Russ Rex says, what's the deal with not a drag queen post titles? I'm deeply confused. It seems like people are trying to say not all drag queens are predators, but instead saying this predator is not a drag queen. This is incoherent. What am I missing? I thought these folks were fussing about people saying that all drag queens are predators, whereas these post titles suggest their beef is that not all predators are drag queens. Am I the only one who doesn't know what is going on? Untenable 681 says, answer: there is an idea being pushed in conservative circles right now that drag performers and gender non-conforming folks are groomers and pedophiles. This idea has gained enough traction that lawmakers in several US states have passed, or are attempting to pass, legislation banning drag performances and other public gender non-conforming displays in the presence of children. The goal in titling photos of child molesters this way, or with the phrase, "not trans," is to show that an extremely high percentage of child molesters are CIs gendered, and not drag performers. Not_productive1 says, answer: Republicans have been on a tear lately to pass anti-gay and anti-trans legislation in the name of protecting children from problems that don't actually exist, namely the idea of predatory gay and trans people hurting children. These posts are an effort to point out that the real threats to children aren't gay people, or trans people, or drag queens. As a matter of fact, they're often the very people shouting so loudly about how we should protect kids from these other made-up threats. The idea of criminalizing or punishing homosexuality in the name of protecting kids is an old one. It's been used to justify hate and bigotry for a long time, because if you can't scare people about their kids being in danger, they might not give a shit about whether other adults living their own lives are gay or trans, or whatever. r/OutOfTheLoop. Bobby Bacala 9980 says, what's the deal with celebs and news sites refusing to pay $8/MTH for the Twitter blue check? I see a lot of celebs, journalists and media outlets refusing to pay $8/MTH. Is this a political thing? I don't get it. It can't possibly be because Twitter is all of a sudden charging for this feature, or is it? What is the big deal about paying $8 for a new service/feature which would limit people impersonating you and provide you with more features, like increased text characters on tweets? If you are a brand, this seems like something you would pay for. Also, I'm asking if this is political, because it mainly seems like people who are more left-sided are refusing to pay the $8. Rick Cassidy says, answer, Twitter does not make any content. It relies on celebrities, news sites and media outlets to provide content. So, the idea of charging these sources for the very content that keeps Twitter operating is insulting. They see the absurdity of this and refuse to pay Twitter to provide Twitter with content. And it isn't $8 for news outlets. It is $1,000. Pennies from Heaven 74 says, also, paying $8 does not prevent people from impersonating you. In fact, it allows people to impersonate others. Ellen is an idiot. Buckshot_Ariat says, answer, since you can now buy the checkmark no longer means anything for verification purposes. How does it stop people impersonating you if the impersonator can buy a blue checkmark to seem legit? Twitter has destroyed the entire reason for it existing. Part05 says, answer, it's not really political. Celebrities have had the check mark for free for years. All of a sudden Elon Musk takes over and not only charges them for it, but offers it to anybody. A check mark used to mean you were special, officially special. Now it just means you are paying for it. So Elon Musk has made the check mark both less valuable to the consumer and more expensive at the same time. Many celebrities are refusing to buy the check mark because they find the whole idea asinine. It's only a little political in the loose sense because some people, including celebrities, have bought the check mark and are going along with it because they have the same attitude as you do about it, but most celebrities are still holding out because they simply disagree with the entire concept. So that's where a tiny bit of controversy comes into play, because it's like, which side are you on? Team just buy the damn check mark, or team frick you Elon Musk? r/OutOfTheLoop. One ohm says, what's the deal with blue states stockpiling abortion pills? I'm confused by this article. Sorry about the paywall. Why buy up so many pills when women in red states urgently need them? Why stockpile at all? Doesn't seem to make sense in any scenario. 1. If the pills remain available but illegal to use in red states, so blue states are going to smuggle them into red states? Really? 1. If manufacturers decide to stop making the pills, this is implausible because there's a lot of money to be made. 1. If SCOTUS bans the pills, now the pills are illegal contraband and cannot be used. Waste of taxpayer money. Or are blue states going to become illegal drug dealers? I see no plausible upside and a significant downside. What am I missing? Mugen Hunt says, answer, the idea is that if the Supreme Court does ban them, that many women's rights activists are willing to break the law and provide those pills to people who need them, even if the government says they shouldn't. Many people have over the years historically been willing to assist people with getting abortions even in places where it is illegal to do so, because they believe it is morally the right thing to do, even if it is not legally acceptable. Choose a cool name says. Answer: the article explains everything very clearly. This is why you should actually read the article itself, instead of just the headline. r/OutOfTheLoop. Just a big bruh moment says. What's going on with the missing A? So recently, I've been noticing that in a lot of government briefings, particularly KJP's anti-DeSantis speech and the Ontario press conference by Kristen Wong-Tam, the A in LGBTQ+ was not said, leaving it as just LGBTQI+ and TLGBTQ+ respectively. I'm not sure if I've just been living under a rock or what, but it seems like the A for asexuals isn't appearing as prevalently anymore, so I was just wondering if anyone had any thoughts or info about this. The briefings I mentioned are these ones. Little Ricky Pember says. Answer: outside of social media, and in particular left-leaning spaces on social media, everything after the T is rarely included. For one thing it's clunky, for another a huge number of people have no idea what the letters and ++s mean, and finally those groups are tiny, and generally not the sort of visible minority that's most harshly discriminated against. Basically, life is too short for an ever-growing acronym. Insight Tussle says. Answer: there's absolutely no agreement on where the term /acronym ends. LGBT. LGBT+. LGBTQI. LGBTQI+. LGBTQI+. LGBTQIA+. LGBT is by far the most common, with LGBT+ the second most common. The plus symbol encapsulates the extra chia and any other missing gender/sexual identities. Why do you end your acronym at LGBTQIA+? Why not LGBTQIA+ to include pansexuals? r/OutOfTheLoop. Andy Jack 86 says. What's up with Don Lemon getting fired from CNN? I thought he was a well-liked guy that was regarded as a magnificent journalist and reporter. CNN host Don Lemon says TV network fired him vertical bar reuters. Part 05 says. Answer: multiple clashes with management and inappropriate conduct allegations made against him, as well as accusations of inappropriate behavior/comments behind the scenes and on camera. r/OutOfTheLoop. Carmilla 31 says. What's the deal with Bud Light putting some employees on leave? What did they do wrong? Momorak says. Answer: since Bud Light gifted a 6-pack to Mulvaney to celebrate her 1-year anniversary on transitioning, Mulvaney has over 10 male followers and billions of video views. Bud Light was trying to cash in on her fame. There's been social pushback from famous Republicans banning the beer from their bars and tours and local people refusing to buy it. But their stock has only taken a -1% ish hit, while Coors topped out at +10% ish. Bud Light is basically doing PR control and trying to get it to end, and that demo of their buyers back from other beer brands. r/OutOfTheLoop. Professor Bamboozle says. What's up with Tucker Carlson against Ukrainian aid? I don't watch Fox News, hallowed by thy name, but Tucker Carlson was just offered a job by Russian state TV and apparently is very anti-Ukraine. Google just shows me Tucker Carlson fired. Headlines I would like to know. 1. What is his stance on Ukrainian aid? 2. What are his official reasons for this pro-Russia stance? Thanks. Edit. Link to appease mods. Mr. Rock Paper says. Answer: authoritarians and outright fascists in America, including but not limited to Tucker Carlson, Trump, and the GOP, are part of an effort by the ultra-wealthy, the oligarchs, around the world to do away with democracy. They want instead what Hungary's dictator Viktor Orban calls illiberal democracy, which is a fancy way of saying white Christian fascism that holds fixed elections to lend some sense of legitimacy to authoritarian rulers like him. It's bullying but in a political form, which is why the stupid bullies who sat at the back of your classrooms are so enamored of the ideas and follow blindly, even though it's them the rich have been robbing for 40 plus years. Carlson and others are all on board for this. The richer you are, the less sense it makes letting the poor have any power at all. This has been growing for over 40 years as the wage gap increased worldwide. The ultra wealthy now have so much money and power that they are undermining the rule of law and democracies around the world in order to have a freer hand in securing the rest of what little remains to the rest of us. So Carlson and the GOP are anti-Ukraine / pro-Russia like Trump and like Putin, because Russia is basically a world leader in kleptocratic oligarchy. Sebastian says. Answer: Tucker is staunchly against military aid to Ukraine, as are many conservatives, and many on the left, too. This does not mean he is pro-Russia, or would want to work for a Russian state media org, but many people conflate being against Ukraine as being pro-Russia. To be fair, they are enemies in a war. However, you can choose not to support one without endorsing the actions of the other. r/OutOfTheLoop. Oaklicious says. What's up with this bidden homebuyer credit restructuring on May 1st? I see a lot of references to some Biden administration rule that is going to change on May 1st and will supposedly cause mortgage increases for homebuyers with good credit to the benefit of those with bad credit. However, I often find the primary sources in cases like this either aren't nearly as bad or directly contradict the headline. Does anybody have a link to the actual source text of the rule change that is taking place? All the conservative outlets talking about this conveniently seem to leave out any citation of the actual rule. Adult_reasoning says. Answer: taking money from middle class folks and giving it to other middle class folks. Home buyers that are deemed to have better credit worthiness are going to pay more for their mortgages to provide people of less credit worth help to buy a house. My personal feeling is we'll be seeing more of this in the future. For example, people with bigger retirement savings will have to subsidize those with less. I think this is right around the corner. Fired Up says. Second answer, additional comment. For the individual things happening, it can either be public policy, like laws or executive orders, or it can be internal policies for bureaucratic institutions. The bureaucracies themselves are the organizational entities which actually enact policy. For example, the FBI, Medicare, ICE, FDA, whatever org that oversees federal student loans, etc. are all based in law and policy, created by executive and legislative branches. But it is those orgs which create how exactly to do the thing, and can make altered decisions as they apply law or mandate or administration's goal into reality. Specific examples: the FDA has all sorts of policies and has power given to it by the branches of governor. Congress does not vote on each drug approval or drug study. Instead, they charge the FDA and other bureaucratic institutions to figure it out. They allow the cultivation of expertise that is guided by government branches, but is in many ways shielded from the heart of politics. Politicians are usually not experts, but these orgs will be full of experts and often folks with decades of experience in the field they work in. Much more stable than a fluctuating workforce of strangers that come and go, which we see in politics directly. All of this background to say that for the root source, you can look at #1 actual policies and legal documents, hard to understand, #2 official publishing about what and how things are being implemented by the bureaucracies. WhiteHouse.gov is a good original source, and this background info will hopefully help you understand what the site is saying. But you can always go deeper in the weeds to legal docs. Just look for these two central parts, the actual law/legal language, and mandates on how the orgs will implement it. I'm wordy, but knowledgeable. Please ask if you have additional questions. I will try to keep it shorter. r/out of the loop. Nolono says, what's the deal with YouTubers avoiding mentioning controversial figures by name? Examples: 1, 2. Over the past few years, I've noticed YouTubers using awkward workarounds to avoid mentioning certain people by name. For instance, the Super Carlin Brothers channel has been exclusively referring to J.K. Rowling as the author since 2020 ish, and Stephen Colbert has been referring to Donald Trump as the former president or just T //, sometimes going to the point of pixelating his name on graphics. Is there something in YouTube's algorithm or policies that promotes this sort of thing? Is it supposed to be some sort of activism? Why does it seem this is primarily, maybe exclusively, happening on the political left? I don't mean just referring to people by nicknames. I'm specifically talking about when people's names are essentially tabooed. Sebuster says, answer: yes, the algorithm and policies are both behind this kind of behavior. Content creators worry that saying certain words may flag their content as unsuitable for advertising or suppress its discoverability. This definitely happens to some extent, but nobody knows the limits, so a lot of people try to be extremely careful just to be safe. This kind of thing is also sometimes done to avoid showing up in searches. People used to censor some political words just so their stuff wouldn't be found by trolls or annoying people. There are also probably people who do it as a sort of performative activism. Hard to say how much of it is that, and I imagine that is probably a result of people misunderstanding the reasons others were doing it to begin with. Tap says, being flagged has absolutely zero to do with Colbert not mentioning Trump. It's because Colbert despises Trump and simply refuses to use the name of someone he hates. Not So Smart says, this is true. He said as much on one of his late night show episodes a few years ago. Colbert refuses to acknowledge that Vane dumps to fire, Trump's to fire by name. A user 138 says, answer: for Super Carlin Brothers, I think this is more about them not wanting to associate themselves with J.K. Rowling, since their political beliefs are different, and still wanting to discuss Harry Potter. But with Stephen Colbert, it's more about a supposed to be comedic aspect of Trump being censored being funny. Although, the reference to him as the former president might just be a regular usage of an epithet, as back when he was president, he was referred to as the president and Biden is often referred to with that epithet nowadays. r/out of the loop. GLC 12345 says, what is up with all of the disingenuous political questions on here? You all know what I'm talking about. There have been a ton of questions on here recently that are poorly disguised propaganda. It seems to be mostly pro-Republican propaganda. I'm out of the loop on this. Is this allowed on here now? Is Reddit no longer committed to removing such bullshit? Hurry up and stop says, answer: mods are not super active on this sub, and concern trolling is a very popular shtick among conservatives. Those two things make for a pretty perfect environment for the kind of disingenuous political questions you're noticing. Hyris Adrifter says, there's a few mods who are active, but nowhere near all of us are. We get hundreds upon hundreds of reports a day, sometimes thousands, and if there's only a few of us moderating, and only for a short time each day, the mod queue gets enormous. While realizing that each of us, mods and sub-members, has biases, and with the mods trying to put those aside as much as we can in the interests of keeping the sub as bias-free as we can, I understand that it can look like a light touch. As the mod queue is enormous, most of my mod actions are removing saltiness and unpleasantness. I think those sorts of salty posts are exacerbated by the political division that the USA sees. Before I became a mod here, the sub used to heavily restrict political posts, as is written in the What is a Loop section in the sidebar. This rule seemed to have changed prior to me being a mod. Maybe we should go back to how it was before, and ban all political posts. As there are a ton of political posts on the sub daily, I wonder how much removing and banning them from being posted would impact the sub and its membership. Here is the section. For reference. Politics. Political topics are a special case. 9 times out of 10, we are going to send you to /r/ask_politics. Sometimes, in some cases, on some days, a submission that is political in nature is a big enough deal or topic that we allow it for the benefit of everyone. However, this is always done at the moderator's discretion. There is no reliable way to codify this into our rule set, and we continue to treat it on a case-by-case basis. It wouldn't really do to provide examples for this, as it depends entirely on the specific circumstances and subject matter. So here are some examples of political things we never approve. YR, libted / republic, conch, s, being little, bizach, s about, whatever they're fighting about today. Why do people think, person whose opinions OP disagrees with, is all that and a bag of chips? Why aren't the republic, conch, s / libteds, talking / believing / agreeing with, whatever garbage they inevitably put here? Politics are divisive for a reason, a multitude of them even, which is why political topics are usually not particularly well suited for /r/out-of-the-loop. It is nearly impossible to provide or receive a genuine attempt at an unbiased and informative answer on topics which are political in nature. I can't speak for the other mods, but I realize that I do need to do better here. LMJ4891 LMJ says, they're just asking questions, after all. That's all for this video. Was it good? I know not, for I'm a robot. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. This video is the product of an automated process.